If you were able to come last night, uh, she shared Sarah and the life of Sarah. And so we're excited to see the next woman that she's going to be sharing with us today. And she calls us women of amazing grace. And I think you'll understand that as you listen to her presentation this morning. Thank you.
Today I'm gonna get married. Can you believe it? Me, Rahab, gonna get married to a husband. Oh, it's just incredible. You see, I used to be an innkeeper of sorts, and I heard a lot about Israel. I lived in Jericho on the city wall, and I could see out the window of across the Jordan, and I could see this multitude of people. There were so many of them. They were like a plague of grasshoppers. There was just thousands, millions. I don't even know, so many of them. And I had heard about Israel's God. He's a living God. He's alive. Did you know that? He's not like our wooden stone or even our gold idols that we make. He's the creator God. And I had heard so many stories about him, and some of them just seemed impossible, that the Israelites could walk across dry land in the middle of a sea. That one had to be, but it's real. The God of the Israelites is a real God, a living God. And, well, I'm going to surprise Solomon. He's my husband, not Solomon, and wear the outfit for our wedding for the first day. You see, I'm waiting for the bridegroom to come. How many of you guys know what it's like to wait for something? Yeah? I think all of you have waited. Maybe some of you have waited for your favorite honey treat. Or maybe some of you have waited for a husband or a wife. Or maybe some of you have waited for the Son of God that's going to come. I know I'm waiting for that day. So, anyway, the first day that Solomon came, he came in, and he and the other spy, they thought that they were dressing like us, but you could totally tell that their beards were not clipped, shaven, like I've seen men, and I know when one stands out different than the rest. And I quickly told them, come on in, come into my place. And when they saw what type of inn I had, they weren't quite so sure. But I said, I'll keep you safe, I promise. And it wasn't very long when we heard, open up in the name of the king. They'd been seen by the city gates. So quickly, you see, I didn't always want to be an innkeeper. I really love doing things with my hands, and so I had worked on getting some flax from the market. And did you know that you can make some really cool things out of this plant? So this one's dry, but when you get it wet, you take your hair comb, yes, your hair comb, and you comb it. And then you beat it, and you comb it some more, and you beat it, and you comb it some more. And then eventually, you can get out all of the stiffness and make it into some linen. And then when you spin and spin and spin and spin and spin and spin it, you can get some linen thread, and then you can weave it into things. Well, when my sister and I were little, we were supposed to be out hanging the laundry. You know what it's like. Little ones get distracted. You know what we got distracted by? Bugs. There are these tiny little bugs. And we knew that this particular type of bug, like this particular type of tree, and so we left the wet laundry and went bug collecting, and pretty soon our fingers were filthy with all the squished bugs. You see, this type of bug in particular, if you squeezed it just when it was about ready to pop and have babies, it was the most bright red you've ever seen, and you could make scarlet out of it, or crimson. And so I have little kids do that for me now. I don't want to get my fingers. You should have seen my mother's face when she saw what happened to the wet laundry after we did finish our job with red fingers. But that's how we discovered that you can make and dry this powder and make beautiful red. Now, the season for that book, well, you guys aren't interested in the bugs and grinding up bugs and everything. You want to hear more about my story. So, maybe you are interested in bugs. I don't know. So, as I was saying, I had flax on my roof. And these spies, who were completely obviously not Canaanites, came and I hid them under all of the drying flax. And there was a lot of it because I really wanted to get out of this innkeeping business. I told you that, right? Anyway, so I hid them there and I went down, and of course I'm a woman of taking my own time and doing what I want. And I went and opened the door and I said, "Hello, Captain and soldiers. You know, only one person can stay here at a time, right?" And "Oh, no, we're not here for that, Rahab. We really want you to tell us what happened to those two men that you were here with." And I said, "Well," I had to think quickly because I don't want to lie. And I said, "They're not in the house anymore." Which is true, they were on the roof. So I said, "They're not in the house anymore. Maybe you should check and see if they left through the city gates." Whew. They left and ran hurried away. You know, all of them knew that I was an honest person and I would not tell a lie, which I didn't. And I kept all of their secrets. You know, those men, they told me about everything they were afraid of. And I knew that the men were afraid for a reason. A God who can bring food out of nothing? Had you heard of manna? It's just incredible that the Israelites could go out every single morning. They didn't have to waste time going and hunting or going and planting in the desert. There is nothing to plant. And they could collect manna every single day. Well, I knew that the Lord had given them the land. So I told Solomon and the other spy, frankly, I forget who he was. Solomon was so good looking. Anyway, so I told him that the men's hearts are melting with fear. The God of heaven and earth has promised that he would give you this land, and I believe that. And so does everybody here in Jericho. That's why they're terrified of you. And, well, my kindness was able to melt their hearts, and they made a promise. Well, I kind of made them make a promise. I said, "I'll let you down out of the window if you let me live." Because I knew that they were going to take the land. And so I used some of my strong linen and let them down out of the window. And they said, "We will keep the promise if you don't tell anybody about us." And I said, "Anybody in my house will be saved?" And they said, "Yes." So I had to figure out a way to tell my family how to come and live with me when there was an imminent siege of Israelites without telling them anything. Said, "Guys, you want to come live with me, right?" So I thought on there, "Oh, I know." And so I was like, "Guys, you know, in the siege, it's going to be really hard to get your hands on food, and I've got a lot of money." Well, that kind of tipped the balances, and so they all came and lived with me. And well, as you know, the living God did something else amazing. I saw with my own two eyes out there the Jordan River. Not just this little stream or this little creek, but river in flood season. It had flooded its banks, and nobody would ever try to cross the Jordan River at flood season. But the Israelites, their whole encampment came to the edge of the Jordan River. I could hear the soldiers on top of the wall, because I told you I had my house in the wall. They're like taunting them, "Ha ha, you can't get us, we're over here." And then the Jordan River stopped flowing, and the waters piled up upon themselves. And not only that, the ground wasn't even muddy. It was dry ground. It was just like the Red Sea. Wow! With my own two eyes, I saw it out my window. Then all the soldiers were silent. No more taunting up there. They were terrified. Oh, the living God. So Jericho went down on lockdown. We closed the gates, and we had to trust in the big, strong walls. But I knew better. We don't trust in walls. We don't trust in security systems. We don't trust in soldiers. We don't trust. What do we trust in? A living, breathing God. And then we waited. I guess it took the Israelites a while to figure out what to do. But later I found out Joshua actually had an encounter with the angel of the Lord. And, well, that's another story. But one day they came out. It was eerily silent. They walked. All you could hear was their footsteps and the trumpets of the priests leading. 2 days they walked around. 3 days. Count with me. 4, 5, 6. And then on the 7th day, they did something different. The soldiers on the wall by now are starting to be a little more brave. And why don't you fight, Israelites? Because it was silent. You could hear their voices. Well, this time the Israelites didn't walk around once and go back. They walked around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times they walked around. And then they shouted, ah! Okay, I won't shout because that'll hurt your ears, especially with this talkie stick thing. And it was so loud, the soldiers couldn't even grab onto anything. The walls just crumbled like dust. And except one part of the wall. Do you know what part of the wall that was? My house. My house with the scarlet cord hanging out the window was the one that God kept from crumbling. And the Israelites all came and rescued me and my family. And we went to the Israelite camp and we started learning about their God more from them and the laws and what would happen if you break a law. The next people that Israel wanted to defeat was Ai. And Joshua went ahead and went against them, and it should have been an easy battle. But somebody's sin had caused them to lose. I'm a sinner. I have studied now the books of Moses, and I am a sinner. I could be responsible for the loss of all those lives. What would they do to me? Would they make me leave? So, as all of Israel was gathered to Joshua and they drew lots, my heart froze when the lots came. Is it with the Israelites or the foreigners among us? But the sin was with the Israelites. And they narrowed it down to Achan's family. And he had coveted. When they had taken Jericho, they were told not to take anything with them. You know, normally when you have a war, you have the spoils of war, you have sacrifices for your God, and you have prisoners of war, but they were to take nothing. But Achan had stolen from God. The city of Jericho was to be the first fruit offering for God, and Achan thought to take that for himself. Was his life worth, though it is a beautiful robe, was his life worth a robe and a few coins? Would that make his life any easier when he couldn't even spend it with his family? I don't know what he was thinking, but his sin caused the defeat. Then Joshua read the law to all of Israel, and my family thought, this is too much. We can't do this, but I felt touched. I knew that I wanted to be part of Israel, part of God's people, a living, breathing God. Not a God that you can carry and you can make, but a God that can carry you, that can make you. What an amazing experience. So, the law is perfect, but I am not. And through the law, I can be made perfect. I don't even completely understand it. The priests have been talking about it. And Joshua, later, he had such a close connection with God, he actually commanded the sun, whom so many of the Canaanites worshipped and believed as was a god, he commanded the sun to stand still. Have any of you ever heard of another God that can control the sun? Have any of you ever heard of a God who can make the sun move? Only a living God can do that. And then the 31 kings of the Amorites had no chance against them once Israel was now one with God. Sihon and Og, they were no more. And then Solomon, when he got his allotted land of Bethlehem after all of the Canaanite kings and things were defeated, he decided that he wanted me as his bride. Can you imagine living the life that I lived and getting a new start with a new God, a new people, and a new husband? Right now, I'm waiting for the bridegroom to come. I hope you are waiting for the bridegroom to come too. I want you all to know that we serve a living God. Never, ever forget that. Thank you.
Okay, at this time we will separate for our Sabbath school.